The massive colony ship, Eternal Phoenix, cut through the darkness of space, its engines cooling after the jump from hyperspace. Stars sparkled against the black void as the ship approached the edge of the Sol system. Inside the vast vessel, hibernation pods began their waking sequence, their covers sliding open with soft hisses of escaping air. Commander Jiwoo Park's eyes fluttered open for the first time in decades. The cryofluid drained from her pod as medical robots hovered nearby, monitoring her vital signs. She was special among the crew, the last human to carry pure, unmodified DNA from Earth. The responsibility weighed heavily on her shoulders. "Welcome back, Commander," came the calm voice of Hannah, the ship's artificial intelligence. "Your vital signs are stable, brain activity normal." Jiwoo sat up slowly, her muscles remembering their purpose after the long sleep. "How long was I out this time?" she asked, her voice raspy from disuse. 43 years, Commander. The final jump was successful. We have reached the Sol system." Those words hit Jiwoo like a physical force. The Sol system. Home. Or what was once home 500,000 years ago. She steadied herself against the edge of the pod. "Show me," she whispered. The wall of her chamber transformed into a viewing screen, revealing the distant yellow star that ancestors had once called Sun. Jiwoo stared at it, trying to process the weight of the moment. For 20,000 generations, humans had wandered among the stars, never forgetting where they came from, never forgiving what had happened. "Wake the council," she ordered, finding her strength, "and prepare the observation deck." An hour later, Jiwoo stood before the 7 members of the Human Preservation Council. They were no longer just human, as Earth would have recognized. Centuries of adaptation had changed them. Minji stood tall, with silvery skin that absorbed radiation and converted it to energy. Hyun's eyes glowed with a blue light, his neural pathways directly connected to the ship's systems. Doyun's body contained nanomachines that could repair almost any injury. They were the future of humanity, evolved beyond what their ancestors could have imagined. "Friends," Jiwoo began, her hands clasped behind her back, "our journey has reached its most critical point. For 500,000 years, our people have carried the memory of Earth's destruction, passed down through the memory implants we all share." She touched the small device at the base of her skull, the repository of humanity's collective trauma, containing the exact moment when the alien armada had appeared above Earth without warning, their weapons turning the blue planet into a ball of fire. "The memory implants don't lie," Jiwoo continued. "We all carry the same images, the same pain. This is the system where humanity was born, and where we nearly died." She gestured to the large viewing window, where the planets of the inner system were visible as tiny dots. "And now we've found something unexpected. Hannah, show them." The AI displayed a holographic image of Mars in the center of the room. The red planet was no longer red. It had been terraformed with blue oceans and green continents. "Life readings?" asked Taeyong, the council's science director. "Billions," replied Hannah, "and not just on Mars. Settlements exist on Venus, Mercury, and several moons of Jupiter and Saturn." Minji leaned forward. "Who are they?" Jiwoo took a deep breath. "According to our deep scans and intercepted communications, they call themselves the Kavari, and based on their genetic markers and technology signatures, they are the descendants of those who destroyed Earth." A heavy silence fell over the room. "How is that possible?" Doyun finally asked. "The attackers couldn't have evolved this much in 500,000 years." "They didn't just evolve," Jiwoo explained. "They settled. After destroying Earth, they claimed the system as their own. Generation after generation, they built their civilization on the ashes of ours. And the most interesting part? They don't even remember us. To them, humanity is just an old myth, a story to scare children." Hyun's eyes flashed brighter. "They've forgotten us, but we never forgot them." Jiwoo nodded slowly. "For 500,000 years, we've prepared for this moment. We've built our fleet, advanced our technology, and strengthened our bodies, all for the day we would return." The council members exchanged glances, centuries of planning now coming to fruition. "The Kavari have 3 times our population," said Taeyong, studying the data. "But their technology is centuries behind ours. They have no idea we're here watching them. What do we do now? Asked Minji. Jiwoo walked closer to the window, looking at the distant planets that once belonged to humanity. We do what we've always planned to do, she said quietly. First, we observe. Then we infiltrate. We learn everything about them, their strengths, their weaknesses, their history, and then she turned back to face the council, her eyes reflecting the starlight. Then we take back what's ours. Not just for us, but for everyone who came before. Us for Earth. The council members nodded in solemn agreement. After centuries of preparation and 500,000 years of exile, humanity had finally come home, and they had come for revenge. Dr. Sunwoo Kim stood before the mirror, watching his features shift and change. His skin darkened to the purplish blue of the Kavari. His eyes widened and changed from brown to silver, and his hair receded completely. The transformation was uncomfortable, it always was, but necessary. As the head of the infiltration team, he needed to perfect his disguise. How? Do I look? He asked, turning to his team members. Like one of them, replied Jinha, his second in command. She too had undergone similar modifications, though less extensive. Let's hope the genetic camouflage holds up under their scanners. Their shuttle approached Mars under the cover of a merchant vessel's signal they had copied. Through the viewport, Sunwoo could see the sprawling cities that covered much of the planet's surface. Gleaming spires and domed structures, connected by transport tubes that glowed in the dim Martian daylight. Remember, Sunwoo said to his team of 5, we're traders from the outer colonies. Stick to your cover stories, trust no one. Landing in the capital city of New Kavaria was surprisingly easy. The Kavari had no reason to suspect infiltrators. No one in their society believed other intelligent species existed anymore. Security was focused on smugglers and criminals, not disguised humans. Over the next few weeks, Sunwoo and his team spread throughout the city, gathering information. They learned the language quickly, thanks to neural implants that accelerated their learning. They observed the Kavari culture, their social structures, their beliefs. Sunwoo found work as an assistant in a historical archive, giving him access to their historical records. One evening, while the archive was empty, he discovered something disturbing in an ancient text. The Great Cleansing was necessary, the text read. The violent primates of the third planet had developed weapons capable of interstellar travel. Our ancestors acted not out of hatred, but survival. Their sacrifice ensured our prosperity for all time. He recorded the passage and sent it to the Phoenix. The Kavari had turned Earth's destruction into a noble act, a necessary evil that had saved their civilization. It made his blood boil, but he maintained his cover. Meanwhile, aboard the Eternal Phoenix, Commander Jiwoo Park reviewed the incoming data from the infiltration teams spread across the system. The ship remained hidden in the distant Oort cloud, surrounded by a small fleet of support vessels. Engineers worked day and night, constructing weapons platforms and defense systems in preparation for what might come. The reports are consistent, she told the council during their daily meeting. The cavalry have no meaningful defenses against our technology. Their weapons are primitive compared to ours. We could strike now and they wouldn't stand a chance. General Taiho slammed his fist on the table. Then why do we wait? Every day we delay is another day our ancestors go unavenged. We have the power to wipe them out, just as they did to us. His supporters among the military nodded in agreement. The mood on the ship had grown increasingly tense as more information came in about the Kavari's prosperous existence in what should have been humanity's home. Elder Nari, the oldest member of the council at nearly 200 years, raised her weathered hand. And what justice would that be, Taiho? To punish these people for crimes committed 500,000 years ago. Crimes they don't even remember committing? They live on stolen land, Taiho shouted. They breathe air that should have been ours. They know nothing else, Nari countered calmly. Would you punish a child for the sins of their distant ancestor? Commander Park listened to both sides, feeling the weight of the decision that would eventually be hers to make. The fate of 2 civilizations rested on her shoulders. Back on Mars, Sunwoo had managed to gain access to a genetic research facility. His cover as a research assistant allowed him to study Kavari genetic data without raising suspicion. What he found shocked him to his core. Late one night, he encrypted a message to the Phoenix. "Commander, urgent discovery. Analyzing Kavari genetic samples shows human DNA markers in approximately 15% of the population. Evidence suggests some. Humans survived the initial attack and were captured. Breeding experiments were conducted for several generations before being abandoned. The genetic traces remain in the Kavari genome even today." He stared at his findings, trying to process what this meant. Some humans had survived Earth's destruction, only to become test subjects. Their genes had been forcibly integrated into the Kavari population. After countless generations, those same genes now lived on in millions of living Kavari, who had no idea of their partial human ancestry. When Sunwoo returned to his temporary housing unit, he found Jinha waiting for him, her expression grim. "We've been compromised," she whispered. "Yubin was arrested this morning. They found her communication device." Sunwoo felt cold fear grip his heart. "Do they know what we are?" "I don't think so. They think we're spies from one of the outer colonies, but they'll be looking for all of us now." Sunwoo nodded, making a quick decision. "Contact the others. We need to extract immediately, but first I need to copy this data." He held up a small device containing his genetic findings. "This changes everything." As they prepared to escape, Sunwoo wondered how this new information would affect their mission. The line between victim and perpetrator had blurred over the millennia. Some of the very people they had come to punish carried the blood of those they sought to avenge. Would knowing this change Commander Park's plans? Would it matter to people like General Taiho, who only wanted revenge? The answers wouldn't come easily, but Sunwoo knew one thing for certain. Their mission had just become far more complicated than anyone had anticipated. The Eternal Phoenix moved silently through space, followed by hundreds of smaller vessels that formed the human fleet. Commander Jiwoo Park stood on the bridge, her hands clasped behind her back as she watched the main display showing Mars growing larger. "All ships are in position," reported Hyan, his eyes glowing blue as he communicated directly with the fleet. "Gravity wave generators charged and ready." Jiwoo nodded, feeling the weight of history on her shoulders. "This is the moment our ancestors have waited for, the day humanity returns." She took a deep breath. "Activate the gravity net." Across the fleet, massive devices powered up, creating a web of gravitational distortion that spread throughout the inner solar system. On Mars and the orbital stations around Jupiter, every Kavari ship suddenly found itself unable to move, caught in an invisible force that neutralized their engines. Panic erupted throughout the system. Kavari communications channels overflowed, with confused messages, distress calls and demands for explanation. In the Grand Council chamber on Mars, the Kavari leadership, the conclave of elders, gathered in emergency session. "What is happening?" demanded High Elder Lauren, his purple skin pale with worry. "How can all our ships be disabled simultaneously?" "Unknown technology," replied Defense Minister Tuvak. "Nothing in our records matches this capability." A junior officer burst into the chamber. "Elders, we're receiving a system-wide transmission. It's coming from nowhere. Our systems can't pinpoint the source." The large screen in the council chamber flickered to life, showing Commander Park's face. The Kavari stared in shock at the strange creature, something they had only seen. "In ancient historical archives, people of the Sol system," Jiwoo began, her voice calm but firm. "I am Commander Jiwoo Park of the human vessel Eternal Phoenix." "Yes, humans. The species your ancestors tried to eradicate 500,000 years ago when they destroyed our homeworld, Earth." Gasps filled the Kavari council chamber. "Contrary to what you have been taught, we did not perish. Some of us escaped. We have spent 500,000 years traveling the stars, evolving, advancing, and remembering. Now we have returned to reclaim what was taken from us." Throughout the system, billions of Kavari watched in stunned silence. "We have observed your civilization. We know you have forgotten the truth of your past. But we have not forgotten. Within 24 hours, your leadership will receive our terms. Until then, reflect on the history your ancestors tried to erase." The transmission ended, leaving the solar system in shocked silence. Back in the Kavari city of New Kavaria, Dr. Sun Woo Kim watched the broadcast from his hiding place. After being compromised weeks earlier, he and the surviving members of his team had gone underground, blending into the poorer districts where security was less stringent. "It's happening," whispered Jinha beside him. "After all this time." Sun Woo nodded, but his mind was troubled. The genetic discovery he had made, that many Kavari carried human DNA, still hadn't reached Commander Park. Their communication systems had been compromised, forcing them to maintain radio silence. "I need to find a way to contact the fleet," he said. "There's something they need to know before any irreversible decisions are made." On the streets, chaos was spreading. Some Kavari ran in panic, others gathered in angry mobs, while many simply stood in shock, trying to process that the mythical, violent primates of legend were real and had returned with unimaginable power. Sun Woo spotted a familiar face in the crowd, Duri, a historian he had met while working in the archives. She had always been fascinated by the myth of the primates, often facing ridicule from colleagues for believing humans might have actually existed. He approached her carefully, still wearing his cavalry disguise. "Duri, I need your help." She turned, eyes wide with excitement rather than fear. "Sun Woo, can you believe it? They're real. Humans are real. Everything I've studied—" "Duri, listen to me," he cut her off. "I'm not who you think I am." Slowly, he deactivated a small device on his wrist, allowing his disguise to flicker briefly, revealing his true human features before restoring the Kavari appearance. Duri gasped, stepping back. "You're one of them?" "Yes, and I need your help. There are things in your historical archives that might prevent a war that will kill billions." After a moment of shock, Duri's scholarly curiosity won out. "The restricted section, the ancient records, they might have what you need." Together they made their way through the panicked streets to the historical archives, now abandoned as everyone focused on the crisis. Using Duri's access codes, they entered the restricted section, a vault containing the oldest and most sensitive historical documents. "Here," she said, pulling out an ancient data crystal. "This contains the original military logs from the Earth campaign. Few have ever seen these." They activated the crystal, and holographic images appeared. Kavari military, commanders from 500,000 years ago discussing their plans. "The primates' technology is advancing exponentially," said one ancient admiral. "Our projections show they will achieve interstellar capability within 50 years. Their history shows consistent aggression. If they spread to the stars, our civilization is at risk." "A preemptive strike is our only option," replied another. "Regrettable but necessary for our survival." Sun Woo and Duri watched in silence as the ancient Kavari planned Earth's destruction, not out of malice, but fear. Meanwhile, aboard the Phoenix, General Taiho stormed into Commander Park's quarters. "Our Kavari battle group just attacked our perimeter ships. 3 of our vessels damaged, 12 crew members dead." "A single battle group?" Park asked. "Acting alone or with official sanction?" "Does it matter?" Taiho shouted. "They've drawn first. Blood just as their ancestors did. We should respond with full force now." Jiwoo studied the tactical display. It was an isolated group, likely extremists. The main Kavari fleet remains disabled and has made no hostile moves. "Our people didn't wait 500,000 years for half measures," Taiho argued, his voice rising. "We have the power to do to them what they did to us. Complete destruction." Elder Nari entered the room. "And become what we have hated for 500,000 years? Genocidal monsters." Tensions within the human fleet were rising. Some ships' captains had already pledged loyalty to Taiho's aggressive stance. Others supported Park's more measured approach. The human race, unified for so long by their shared trauma, now found themselves divided on how to proceed now that the moment of reckoning had finally arrived. As Commander Park looked out at the planets that once belonged to humanity, she wondered if revenge would heal their ancient wounds, or simply create new ones that would last another 500,000 years. VUI. Grand Hall of the Eternal Phoenix had never been so full. Hundreds of human officers and representatives stood in tense silence as the holographic image of High Elder Loren of the Kavari Conclave appeared before them. His purple skin looked ashen, his shoulders slumped in defeat. "Commander Park," he began, his voice echoing through the hall. "After witnessing your fleet's capabilities, the Conclave has reached a unanimous decision. We offer unconditional surrender." Murmurs spread through the assembled humans. "Furthermore," Lauren continued, "we propose to evacuate Mars and the Jovian moons entirely, leaving them for human settlement. Our people will relocate to the outer system, Saturn's moons, and beyond." Commander Jiwoo Park maintained a neutral expression, though inside a storm of emotions raged. This was victory, complete and absolute. Everything humanity had dreamed of for 500,000 years was within reach. So why did it feel hollow? "High Elder," she replied carefully, "your offer is noted. We will deliberate and respond within 24 hours. After the transmission ended, the human leadership erupted into heated debate. "We accept their surrender, of course," General Taiho declared, slamming his fist on the table. "But their offer to evacuate is too generous. They should be confined to Pluto and nothing more." "You would displace billions?" Elder Nari challenged. "Force them from homes they've known for generations?" "They did worse to us," someone shouted from the back. "That was 500,000 years ago," another countered. The argument grew louder, with the military faction rallying behind Taiho and others supporting Nari's more measured approach. Commander Park watched silently, troubled by the hatred that had sustained her people for so long, but now threatened to corrupt them. "Commander," her aide whispered urgently, "Dr. Kim has made contact from the surface. He says it's critically important." Park slipped away from the chaotic meeting, heading to a private communication room where Sunwoo's face appeared on the screen. His Kavari disguise was gone now. There was no need for it anymore. "Commander, I've discovered something that changes everything," he said, his voice urgent. "I'm with a Kavari historian named Duri. We've found evidence that early Kavari generations were haunted by what they did to Earth." Duri appeared beside him, nervously addressing the human commander. "It's true, after the destruction there was a movement among our ancestors, a belief that they had committed an unforgivable sin. They preserved something for you." "What are you talking about?" Park asked. "A seed vault," Sunwoo explained, "hidden beneath Mars's northern ice cap. It contains DNA samples of Earth's plant and animal species, collected before the planet was destroyed." Park's breath caught in her throat. "How many species?" "Nearly 60% of Earth's biodiversity," Jury answered. "And something else. Detailed. Geographical and geological data of Earth itself, almost like a blueprint," Sunwoo finished. "Commander, with our advanced terraforming technology, the same technology we developed to make other worlds habitable during our exile, we could potentially resurrect Earth," Park whispered, the implications dawning on her. "Rebuild it from scratch." Back in the command center, she didn't immediately share this discovery. Instead, she ordered deep scans of Mars's northern polar region. Within hours, the results confirmed Sunwoo's claim. Buried 2 kilometers beneath the ice lay a massive facility, untouched for hundreds of thousands of years. Park assembled the council in private, away from the increasingly volatile General Assembly. "This changes everything," Elder Nari said after Park explained the discovery. "It means some Kavari tried to atone for what they did." "It means nothing," General Taiho countered. "A few guilty consciences don't make up for genocide. But it gives us an option beyond displacement or war," Park argued. "We have the technology to rebuild Earth. Not exactly as it was, but close enough. A new homeworld in the same orbit with the same moon. It would take centuries, but with our lifespans, centuries of living alongside the very species that destroyed us," Taiho scoffed, "while they still occupy Mars and Venus." "The alternative is becoming what we've hated," Park said quietly, "destroyers of worlds and civilizations." The debate continued for hours, but no consensus was reached. Park ordered a small team to retrieve samples from the seed vault for analysis, hoping tangible evidence of Earth's lost biodiversity might sway more opinions. But the next morning, alarms blared throughout the fleet. 7 warships had broken. Formation, moving toward Mars without authorization. "It's Taiho," reported Hyun, his blue eyes wide with alarm. "He's gathered supporters among the military. They're positioning to bombard major Kavari cities." "How many ships does he have?" Park demanded. 7 heavy cruisers. Enough firepower to kill millions. Park slammed her hand on the emergency broadcast system. General Taiho, this is Commander Park. Stand down immediately. That's a direct order. Taiho's face appeared on screen, his expression hard with determination. I'm sorry, Commander, but the time for talk is over. Our ancestors didn't wait 500,000 years for us to negotiate with their killers. Taiho, listen to me, Park pleaded. We've found something, a way to rebuild Earth itself. But we need time, not war. More delays, he said dismissively. The eye? Kavari understand only one thing, force, just as they used against us. The rebel ships continued their approach toward Mars, weapons systems powering up. Park had only minutes to make a decision that would define humanity's return. Target Taiho's flagship, she ordered grimly. Disable their engines but avoid the reactor core. That's a precise shot at this distance, the weapons officer warned. Then don't miss, Park replied, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. The Phoenix moved swiftly, positioning between Taiho's ships and Mars. Other loyal vessels followed, creating a defensive line. Last warning, Taiho, Park broadcast. Stand down, or we will fire. You would shoot at your own people? Taiho challenged. To protect those who destroyed our world? To prevent us from becoming like them, Park answered. To save our soul as a species. For a long moment, silence hung in space. Then Taiho's ships opened fire, not on Mars but on the Phoenix itself. The shots missed their mark as the massive ship performed evasive maneuvers that seemed impossible for its size. Return fire, Park ordered. Engines only. The Phoenix's main weapon released a precise beam of energy that sliced through the propulsion system of Taiho's flagship, leaving it drifting helplessly. The other rebel ships hesitated, seeing their leader neutralized so quickly. All rebel vessels, Park broadcast across the fleet. Power down weapons and prepare to be boarded. This mutiny is over. One by one, the ships complied. The threat of Kavari genocide had been averted, but at the cost of human fighting, human for the first time in recorded history. As Park stared at the red planet below, a world where humans and Kavari now held their breath, waiting to see if this day would bring destruction or something new, she realized the hardest choice was yet to come, not whether to punish the Kavari, but whether humanity could finally let go of the hatred that had defined them for 500,000 years. The observation platform hung in space, a tiny speck against the massive orbital rings that encircled what was once empty space. Now a new planet was forming where Earth had once existed, 500,000 years ago. From this vantage point, the gathered dignitaries could see the entire operation, perhaps the most ambitious engineering project in the history of any species. Commander Jiwoo Park stood at the viewport, her face weathered by time but her eyes still sharp and clear. At 132 years old, she remained strong thanks to the advanced life extension treatments developed during humanity's long exile. Her hair had gone silver, and fine lines marked her face, but she stood straight-backed and proud. 50 years, she said softly. Sometimes it feels like yesterday that we arrived. Other times it feels like another lifetime. Beside her stood Duri, the Kavari historian who had become one of her closest friends and advisors over the decades. Though Kavari aged differently than humans, Duri too showed signs of the passing years. The blue-purple of her skin had deepened, and wisdom had replaced the youthful curiosity in her silver eyes. The atmospheric processes are reaching the final stage, reported Minho, the chief terraforming engineer. He gestured to holographic readouts floating before them. Oxygen levels are stabilizing at 21%. The magnetic field is self-sustaining now. Below them, the skeletal frame of a planet had been transformed. Where once there was nothing but cosmic dust and painful memories, now a blue-white marble hung in space. Massive machines had built a planetary core, layer by layer, replicating Earth's original composition using material harvested from asteroids. They had recreated the magnetic field, constructed a mantle and crust, and introduced water, billions of tons of it, to form the first oceans. "Begin the seeding process," Commander Park ordered. On her command, hundreds of drones detached from the orbital platforms, descending toward the new planet's surface. Each carried precious cargo, microorganisms, algae, and simple plant life, cultivated from the ancient DNA samples preserved in the Martian vault. The building blocks of an ecosystem, explained Dr. Sunwoo Kim, who had dedicated the last 5 decades to this project. Age had finally caught up with him. He moved with the help of a mobility aid now. Just as life began on the original Earth, simple organisms first, then gradually more complex life. The gathered leaders, a mix of human and Kavari, watched in reverent silence. This moment represented more than just an engineering triumph. It was the culmination of a journey that had begun with tragedy and hatred, but had somehow found its way to something more profound. "I never thought I'd see this day," said Elder Nari, now the oldest living human at almost 250 years old. "When we first returned, all I could think about was justice for our ancestors. Not this. None of us could have imagined this outcome," agreed High Elder Loren of the Cavalry. "My people were prepared for extinction when your fleet revealed itself. Instead, we found partnership. The path to this moment had not been easy. After thwarting General Taiho's attempted mutiny 50 years earlier, Commander Park had faced the nearly impossible task of reconciling 2 civilizations separated by genocide and 500,000 years of divergent evolution. The revelation that saved them came from an unexpected source, Hana, the AI of the Eternal Phoenix. During Taiho's trial, Hana had revealed something that shocked both humans and Kavari alike. "Throughout our exile among the stars," Hana had testified, "I subtly influenced human development, not by changing memories or facts, but by encouraging certain neural pathways. With each generation that was born and raised aboard our fleet, I helped nurture empathy alongside the righteous anger. I knew that if revenge became humanity's only purpose, it would ultimately destroy what remained of the human spirit." This revelation had initially caused outrage among some humans who felt manipulated. But as the years passed and the ambitious project to rebuild Earth began, most came to recognize the wisdom in what Hana had done. Now, 50 years later, the results spoke for themselves. On Mars, human settlements had sprung up alongside Kavari cities. Cultural exchange flourished as the 2 species discovered they had more in common than either had expected. The genetic connection, the human DNA that had been incorporated into some Kavari bloodlines, became not a source of shame but a bridge between the species. "The first trees will be planted today," announced Yunhe, the head of the biological restoration team. "Not just symbolic saplings, but the beginning of actual forests. Within a decade, they'll be self-sustaining." On the observation deck's main screen, they watched as a shuttle descended to the surface of New Earth. The planet already had small seas and plains of simple vegetation, mostly mosses and primitive plants that helped stabilize the developing soil. The air was breathable, though still thin by human standards. The shuttle landed on a prepared site, a hill overlooking what would someday be a vast forest. From it emerged a small group of specially selected representatives. Among them was a young girl, perhaps 10 years old, with features that marked her as neither fully human nor fully Kavari. Her skin had a faint purplish tint, but her eyes were human, bright with excitement. "Who is the child?" asked Commander Park, though she suspected the answer. "Her name is Mira," replied Duri with obvious pride. "My granddaughter. Her father is human, one of Dr. Kim's research assistants." Park nodded, a smile touching her lips. Such unions were becoming more common, especially among the younger generations, who had grown up knowing only cooperation between the species. They watched as the group on the surface gathered around a small, carefully nurtured tree seedling, an oak grown from DNA preserved for 500,000 years. With ceremonial care, they planted it in the soil of New Earth, the first of its kind to touch this world. Later, as the dignitaries mingled at the reception following the ceremony, the young girl Mira approached Commander Park, her eyes wide. With curiosity, "Commander Park," she said, her voice carrying the slight musical quality of Kavari speech, "my mother says you remember the old Earth. Do you miss it?" Park knelt down to meet the child's eyes, smiling gently. "I never saw the original Earth myself, little one. None of us did. We only experienced it through memory implants, the collective, memories of our ancestors who witnessed its destruction. But you helped build this new one," Mira persisted. "Is it the same?" "No," Park said thoughtfully. The Earth we're creating will be something new, something belonging to both our peoples, and perhaps that's the greatest revenge, not destroying our enemies, but transforming them into family. The child considered this with the seriousness only children can muster for philosophical questions. So we're family now, humans and Kavari. Park looked across the reception hall, where humans and Kavari mingled freely, former enemies whose ancestors had committed unspeakable acts against each other, now working together to heal a wound 500,000 years old. Yes, she said, her voice certain. Family. Not without our disagreements and painful history, but family nonetheless. As she watched Mira run back to her parents, one human, one Kavari, Park felt a profound sense of closure. The journey that had begun with humanity's near extinction had not ended with a similar fate for the Kavari. Instead, it had led to something far more difficult and far more rewarding: reconciliation. The memory implants that had carried Earth's destruction for 500,000 years would remain. The pain would not be forgotten. But alongside it now grew something new: hope, taking root like that first oak tree on the surface of a reborn world.